if the big goal in this connection when they're little is connection, the goal is like, oh, I'm feeling so connected to this child. I just want to say that if you build into your relationship a dynamic where the child is caring for you as a child, you are basically creating a disconnection that will show itself later. Yes. Because at some point later, this child realizes that they can't come to us for the things that they really need from us because we're the parent and they're the child. Yes. And so as much as it feels so cozy, yeah, we're not going to make it weird. Enjoy the coziness. Mm-hmm. For the moment that it is, the hug that it is, and then be okay, but let's play, honey. Yeah. And then if you're really feeling like, wow, I am distraught inside, mm-hmm. I am not okay. We're not saying you have to be okay. Just go to another source who can handle that. Don't put the pressure on your kid, but also the alternative is not to suffer alone. Guys, welcome back. My name is Jessica Hover. My friends call me Jess.
I'm Lane Dealing-Cherland, and this is Very Good Enough, a podcast from Very Good Mothers Club.
And this is another episode where right before we turned it on, Lane was saying she was feeling slightly nervous about this one. Though this one doesn't seem like nerves like you're going to get canceled nerves.
No, definitely an earlier conversation today. I felt the stakes felt high.
Yes.
And then also inviting my husband into this, having it be Connor was here, but then also, as you'll see from the video, like we needed to reformat the
room, the
set.
setup.
we produced a new set, and I don't totally know how the audio is going to go. So it's been a day of me being like personally nervous and then logistically nervous. Yeah. This one is just more like I'm going to bring something to us to sort of tease out together because it's something that you guys have asked me. I've heard from a bunch of people this kind of nuanced question that like a lot of times, not to give anybody any ideas, but a lot of times when people DM me, I will send them a voice note back, like a solid long.
That's so nice
voice.
of you.
I know. I almost can't do it anymore.
Yeah, you got to be careful with that. That's going to be a lot.
Where it's now enough that I'm like,
if they want your voice, you do make yourself available for an hour every month. Yeah. Anyway, I love that you do that. That's very sweet.
I do sometimes do that, particularly for people who've like been around since the beginning, and we have been in conversation since there were 100 people following me.
Yeah,
you know, like there's a handful of folks who I feel really connected to.
Yeah,
they feel like my friends. And I get this kind of nuanced question, and I've been meaning to do like a little bonus episode on it, but honestly, I don't feel like I've sought out all the edges. Like I know what the wholeness of the thing is. So I figured maybe that would be an interesting thing for me to bring here.
Well, especially because it's been coming at you now from different mothers experiencing the same thing.
Yeah.
So okay, well, why don't you just bring us to it? Great. What's going on here?
I'm going to just read these two questions to you guys because I don't totally know what to call it, but it's around the theme of like, my child seems to be trying to caregive me around my emotions. And is that normal? And this is how I'm responding. And do you think that's okay? So I'm going to read you two versions of a similar question, but I think probably 4 people have asked me something kind of like this.
Cool.
So my almost 4-year-old is constantly asking me and my husband if we're happy whenever we're upset. It could be as a result of something she did or something else. I feel like she's really tuned into how we're feeling and trying to figure it out, but I don't know how to handle it. I usually say, no, I'm really frustrated right now, and it's okay that I'm frustrated. It's not your job to make me happy. And she says, yes, it is. And I say, no, it's your job to feel your feelings. It's my job to feel my feelings. This has been happening all the time for a couple of months. So that's a 4-year-old.
That's a sweet 4-year-old.
Isn't that? Yeah. It's interesting. So I feel myself immediately go a couple different directions. Yeah. Of like, oh, that's sweet. Oh, I don't know about it. It's just not her job. It's her job to feel. So I instantly feel my thoughts split. This week, my 3.5-year-old started asking me if I'm happy. He usually asks me when I'm annoyed with something that's happened or with his behavior, testing boundaries as any toddler should. I've tried explaining to him that my happiness is not his job and that it's normal and healthy to have a lot of different feelings, but I'm worried that I'm inadvertently setting him up to be a people pleaser like I was/am. And if not, how can I help him realize that it's okay for mommy to not be happy all the time? So isn't that curious? And it is usually a little older. I think I don't think any of these have been super littles.
Sure.
So it's definitely in the space where it's really normal for them to be hyper fixated on other people, that like 3.5, 4-year-old zone. Obviously, these are women who are responding in a really appropriate, like natural kind of logical way. But I just thought it would be an interesting conversation to kind of play with and sort of see where we end up.
Yeah. And I'm going to bring a couple more scenarios to you that I've seen play out that is going to be the other side of this. And I think it's such a healthy conversation we're having. Some women in my life through various conversations I've had have expressed times of like, I'm going through a divorce. And so at night, my little one climbs into bed with me and I'm usually crying and they're next to me. And it means a lot to me that they're there. Okay. It's just that. Okay. I've seen versions of that. So-and-so passed away. My little one really could pick up on how sad I was. So I was crying and they were rubbing me and it felt really nice.
Yeah.
And even hearing those, I had so many feelings inside of me.
Yeah.
And I've never talked about them, but I think this could be a really good conversation just around that idea that little ones get to an age where they start to pick up on our grown-up emotions.
Right. And what do we do?
And we're going to come at this as friends who really believe in you and do have thoughts on this, grounded in education, but also we don't have clarified beliefs around how this should go based on data, based on, research. It's just more, here are our loving thoughts on this topic. And if you guys would like to have a conversation around this, we would love to have one with you. You could join Very Good Mothers Club. We could do it on our Zoom call that we lead. Or they could email you.
Email us.
Yeah, they could email
verygoodenoughpod@gmail.com.
Tell thoughts or ask questions or whatever. But this can really be a conversation. And some of you actually might be really educated in this. Maybe this is like your expertise. So if you have something to share, please share it with us.
Yeah. Calling all therapists.
Seriously. Yeah.
Because this is, we could. I do think honestly, that's part of what has made me hesitate to totally respond to this.
Sure.
I have a developmental take. I'll give it to you.
Yeah.
But it edges out far enough where I'm like, I'm not a therapist though.
We should ask Katie in their group too and see what she thinks. Yeah.
Yeah.
We could really like poll some of these people and be like, so guys, what do we think? Yeah. Okay. So, what are you thinking?
Sure. So to just like quickly lay a developmental framework here, we are in these questions talking about 3.5-year-old, 4-year-old. The reason it makes a lot of sense that this would be a moment for a lot of exploration around that. So like your tiny baby is just a little tiny lump of consciousness, right? It does not have any understanding of self, other, anything. It's just sometimes experiencing things and then sometimes it's dark. That's like all that's happening inside of the brain of your baby. Of course, it's gathering a ton of stuff, but that's like sort of its experience of life. Comfort, discomfort, awake. There's a time that I'm not here. And then your 1-year-old is starting to stretch a little bit away from you. And right around the time that they can really start to walk, they metaphorically and literally can turn back and look at you and they realize, oh my God, she's over there and I'm over here. So there's me. There's a me here. And so we're spending all this toddler time till about 2.5, edging toward 3, just exploring, what does it mean that I'm here? There's a distance between me and you, parent. How far away can I go? How much can I crash back into you? How big am I? How small am I? Really starting to fill out the edges of the fact of self. So they're really only thinking about me. And in that space, they're super egotistical, which is to say they can't hold the idea that another person has a different perspective for them. They're only seeing out their own eyes. So then in the 3-year-old space, and then way a lot at 4-year-olds, they're kind of like, okay, I'm here. And they start to add to that, like, what are my characteristics? Oh, I'm funny. Oh, I'm a good helper. Oh, I like to draw. They start adding ideas about who they are. And then once that feels really clear, then they're like, wait a second. If there's me, there's you. What are you like? What are your characteristics? How do you perceive me? So in the 3-4-year-old space, we get really hypersocial. And that's where you're starting to see a ton of dramatic play, right? You be the mommy and you be the cat and you be the sister, and they try on all these different roles, and they want to talk on your phone, and they want to like make up scenarios, and they're assigning meaning to objects. Like, okay, this block is a phone, this block is the stove, and that one you put the pan on the stove. No, that block was the stove, and that thing actually holds the meaning. They start really playing with these social dynamics. They're obsessed with other people. And a lot of that has to do with feelings. All the stuff that they were manipulating when they were 2, basically just, can I have what I want? Can I not? Like, how forceful can I be in this world? What's my impact? All that same kind of testing, that it's still there. It just gets really subtle because it's turned relational. Everything is like my friend and my mom, and how do you feel about me, and how do I feel about you, and are we friends, and who's my little boyfriend? And their feelings get way more sophisticated. Like when your 3.5-year-old tells you that you hurt their feelings, they mean it. When your 2-year-old says you hurt my feelings, it's because they heard the 4-year-old say it. Right. And what they mean is, I don't like this.
Right.
Yeah. They're not that they don't have feelings, but that they're just a lot less formed. Yeah. There's only a few buttons to hit, and they're all big.
Yeah. And they're not really aware of that experience hurting my feelings.
No, they mean I don't like it, and that matters. Yeah. Totally matters. But the actual words themselves, like, I just said you can't lick the trash can. Yeah. I did not hurt your feelings.
Yeah, exactly.
You hate what I said.
Yeah.
But your 3-year-old, like, really might have their feelings hurt, you know? Mm-hmm. So this exploration at this stage truly is quite a lot more sophisticated. And so in that sense, to answer these questions, that does seem pretty normal to me, that your little person would be really focused on the fluctuations of your feelings, like what caused that in you? How much of that is my responsibility? Do I have control over how you feel? Can I fix how you feel? Mm-hmm. Can I make you feel bad?
Yeah.
Can I make you feel good? But not even just bad and good. Even that is me staying in my preferred 2-year-old zone.
Sure.
Right? Can I make you feel jealous? Can I make you feel upset? What does depressed mean? There's so many more levers to pull. And so I think it is probably a normal time for them to start feeling pretty fixated on how you, the parent, are feeling, because you have remained the most important thing in life.
Yes.
They just have a more sophisticated and complex life now than they did before.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm thinking as you're talking that maybe what they are looking for is a reassurance. Like if everything you're doing somehow reflects back onto them about themselves, they're trying to figure out, like, who am I? So like mom feels bad. Mm-hmm. So did I do that? Like, am I bad? Like they might not even have the ability to ask those exact questions, but you know that internally that's kind of what's going on there.
Absolutely.
And so maybe just assuring them, I love the maturity of these women to be like, I am not doing good, and that's okay. Yeah. And that's part of life. And you didn't cause this. I'm thinking even just assuring the child that they're safe. I love you.
Right.
Like this mommy can be sad and you are a great person. You know, like I know I'm taking it a little far. You can do it the way that is natural for how you talk to your kid. Right. But like, I'm crazy about you, buddy. And I'm having a hard moment right now. I'm pretty frustrated. This actually happened at dinner the other night. We were sitting there around and someone asked me a question, and it basically like reminded me how stressed I was about something. And I said like, oh, I'm sorry. I don't think I can talk about it. I might start crying. And then I turned and I just tears streamed. And Wilson was on my lap and he was like, Mommy, why are you crying? Yeah. And I was like, oh, I'm just feeling stressed about something, buddy. It's okay. I'm having a really good time here at dinner, but I just remembered something that makes me feel kind of bad. And sometimes when I feel bad, I cry. Yeah. And I love you. I'm so happy you're on my lap. Let's play. And then it went away. In the moment, I needed it to go away anyway. I wasn't trying to have those feelings. Sure. But the fact that he was aware of it is exactly what you're describing. It's a new awareness of the people around you, and the core people for them are going to be you guys, whoever your little team is. It could just be you, or it could be the other people in the house. What I guess we would want to be aware of, that some of us might not have the awareness of, is because these little ones are internalizing it, and because they're learning about life through their relationship with you, is that, say you are experiencing a really big loss, as much as it does feel so good to be loved by them, and you can even say, thank you so much for snuggling me. Thanks for rubbing me. That is so sweet. We also don't want to then like train them into being people who, I don't know, it's like this fine line. You love the empathy. You love that they are seeing and loving you, and like we want to not get weird. It's kind of like the episode previously. Like we don't need to be afraid. We're not trying to freak out that our kid is loving us. But if we're leaning into it and we're basically like going through a divorce, so we're placing our husband with our son, and now we're looking to our son to make mommy feel pretty and smart and sweet. That's what we're not trying to do. Yeah. So it's just knowing, like, in the moment, am I leaning into this a bit too much? Like, is this now become my little child's responsibility to make me feel better? Yeah. That's too big for them. That's not their role. Yeah. Maybe call a friend, call a loved one, a therapist, like loving them.
Get a puppy.
Get a puppy. Oh,
like really, but really though. Yeah. Yes. It's very tricky. And I feel, oh God, so no judgment for any adult who's like, thank God there's this little love here.
Oh yeah.
For the space where there's love. But it is desperately important that your child is not your comfort object.
Yes.
It is desperately important for their development that they don't hold that kind of power, that they don't get the feeling that it's their responsibility to make someone else happy, that they don't start to think it's their superpower either. Because some of us had sad moms. And it can become a superpower. Yeah. And it can become the way that you make yourself indispensable to others. I will be so hyper attuned to your feelings, everyone else, that I will be there the second that you need it. I will know what you're feeling before you know what you're feeling. Right. I will have the solution to your feeling before your emotion even hits for you. Yeah. And it just gets so sticky. That's so I don't feel like I need to expand on why that would be tricky in adult relationships.
Yeah. No, it makes
for
sense.
It to be that way.
Well, and if the big goal in this connection when they're little is connection, the goal is like, oh, I'm feeling so connected to this child. I just want to say that if you build into your relationship a dynamic where the child is caring for you as a child, you are basically creating a disconnection that will show itself later. Yes. Because at some point later, this child realizes that they can't come to us for the things that they really need from us because we're the parent and they're the child. Yes. And so as much as it feels so cozy, we're not going to make it weird. Enjoy the coziness. For the moment that it is, the hug that it is, and then be okay, but let's play, honey. Yeah. And then if you're really feeling like, wow, I am distraught inside, I am not okay. We're not saying you have to be okay. Just go to another source who can handle that. Yeah. So a friend, like any of the people I listed before, don't put the pressure on your kid, but also the alternative is not to suffer alone. It's just let the child be a child. And I think it's sweet to affirm the good stuff inside of them that we're seeing. So like I won't speak anything about your mom. In the healthiest environment, you strike me as someone who would still be a caring, nurturing person about others. Sure. In the way that you are. Sure. In an unhealthy environment, you might learn a message about yourself that is your only value, or like that is how you exist and there's nothing else. And so what we're trying to do is, if we see that one of our kids happens to be particularly nurturing, amazing. Yeah. That is such a sweet tendency. Thank you, buddy. I love that. And also, I love taking care of you. Yes. And you're my little one, and I get to do that for you. So how would I take care of you? And you just keep the roles where they're meant to be while still calling out the things that are really precious in a person.
For sure. And explicitly, there's no rule about this. You're not about to get this is how long you can be holding, and then you must let go. Like, I'm not going to give you a number of seconds or minutes, because part of the reason that these questions have come in as so nuanced is because these are women who are clearly aware of this dynamic and looking for, how do I know where that line is? And it's tricky. Mm-hmm. You have to be finding that inside of yourself. This has got to be a matter of like deep and true self-honesty and self-reflection, because really, I think we can feel it. And it's so hard in times when we are deeply, deeply in need. Yeah. But we can sort of feel when a moment of like usness turns into like, oh, I'm drinking this in now. I can feel this going inside in a way that is sustaining me. Yeah. Your very small child should not be sustaining you. Sure. That's a good marker. Yeah. If you feel like this is where I get fed, oh, I can't wait for later when this hunger is going to be abated because this little baby's going to come to me and I'm going to feel better because of that's the wrong direction for the vectors to be pointing. Right. Again, that's going to be totally inside of yourself. And that doesn't mean it shouldn't feel good when your baby snuggles you, because it really, really should. So it really should. And if you guys are going through something together, there probably will be a heightened amount of nurture and snuggle and love. Yeah. But you're going to have to know inside, like, am I feeding on this?
Mm-hmm. Right. And one red flag that gets waved sometimes is when you start to feel your little tiny child hurts your feelings or makes you feel rejected.
Oh, that's good.
When they do something else. Or one that comes up for friends who are going through divorces is like, well, now they're preferring the other parent and they're a little tiny little one.
Small.
Yeah. And as a lover of anyone going through this, including this person who was my real person in my life who I'm expressing love to, that is just like misdirected rejection. You're probably feeling loss in another direction and now putting it on this little child who's actually just treating you developmentally the way they should. Mm-hmm. It just, everything feels heightened and painful. Yeah. Because it's such a painful experience that you're walking through. And so that can also just be a little like identifier of something being a little off, and maybe the need for further support outside of your dynamic as mom of this little one is somewhere else to meet that need inside you and remind yourself, I'm not rejectable. I am enough here as myself. Yeah. I don't know. I've seen that.
Yeah. Your child choosing not to connect with you in a moment should bring up a feeling of like, oh, I really wanted that. Right. Not, oh no, I'm not going to have what I need. Yeah, if the stomach drops out and you're like, oh no, then probably you're going to that person for too much there.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That to me feels like kind of far end of spectrum. Cool. So pulling back over to more this zone where they're talking about like, this seems like not families in moments of crisis or in that sort of danger space. Yeah. Of like, I'm just unhappy. Yeah. I think it's pretty normal for humans to have like a general aversion to negative feelings. I think it would make a lot of sense for your kid to be like, I don't like it that you're unhappy. Can we switch you back to the part that I like better? Yeah. Right. We have mirror neurons. Dopamine releases in our brain when we connect positively. It feels nice. So I think we can respect a natural impulse in small children to be like, well, can I make the negativity go away? And I do feel like a lot of parents are really surprised. Like they'll get these emotions books, like picture books where they have depictions of all the different emotions, and their kid will be super obsessed with angry, scared, and jealous. Like all the faces that are the dark ones. And I know some parents who have been like, I know some teachers who have been like, this child waits for the red page. Is this bad? Right. And being like, no, what it is maximal. It's exciting. It's the most. So there's something interesting in that of like, oh, my normally really happy mom is something else right now. And there's an extra charge to these negative emotions. How curious, and like wanting to either get that negative thing away from this mommy that you love or just really wanting to know a lot about it. Let's know a lot about the darkness.
It's kind of novel if they're not used to seeing mom cry, or Wilson's not used to seeing cry at dinner.
Hello? Totally.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
It's interesting. Yeah, that's a good point.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I think that's normal and totally fine. I like the language of it's not your job to take care of me. Oh, thank you so much for that. That was so sweet of you to think about me in that way. I'm going to go ahead and take care of myself. I appreciate your love. It's not your job to take care of me. You don't have to worry. I'm going to take it from here, energy. Another part of my policy with like feelings about like my feelings and small children is I do want to tell them the truth. Like I always want to go into, for me, a classroom and be able to say like, you guys, I am having a really, really hard time today. Some very tricky things happened this morning. So if I'm a little bit weird today, I just want you to know what that's about.
Yeah.
Period. Like the end.
Yeah.
You know, kind of the end. Not, and so you've got to help me.
Sure.
Not, and so you guys better really listen today, or I'm going to need a little extra from you. But you just know that if something feels really strange, it's because I something weird happened. You know, I was really hoping for something and I didn't get it. And I feel pretty disappointed. And so that's just a feeling that's inside me today.
Yeah.
And hoping that will have nothing to do with the rest of our day. But if I feel a little funky to you, that's what it's about. Which is very lacking in details. Very, very lacking in details. Very lacking in blame.
Sure.
But they definitely know, obviously, these kids are feeling when you're off and when things are funky. And it will always be their natural proclivity to put themselves at the center, because I'm a grown-up and every time my husband is unhappy, I'm like, what did I do?
Sure.
You know, like we just do that.
Yeah.
Ideally less and less. But your small children will very much assume that it's about them unless they're given a proper and true good narrative.
Yeah. Even on that note though, it is so helpful if Sean, if he can tell me like, I'm not feeling good.
Yeah.
You didn't cause it. I love you. You know, thanks for caring. I think I just need to like come down from this. That piece of information as a grown person is so helpful. So something making them feel safe. I think in a previous podcast, you talked about how they're looking to us to kind of figure out, is their world ending?
Yeah.
And so if they're looking to us and we're crying and then they're just trying to piece that together, like, what do your tears mean about my world?
Yeah.
And like, oh, your world's just fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love you. You're safe. Mommy's feeling exactly what you said, all of these things.
Right.
And we're going to move along, you know, and we just keep going. Yeah. I think that is helpful, and it sounds like these women are really doing that.
Yeah. But also like you guys have a right to be unhappy and frustrated.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like bad things your child can behave in a way that makes you very upset.
Yes.
You guys handle it great.
Yes.
And you still get to be frustrated for a little bit.
Totally.
Like them saying sorry doesn't mean that your feelings have to go away.
Yeah.
So there might be a little bit of a boundary in there of being like, it's going to take my body a little while to just calm down from that thing that happened.
Yeah.
I'm going to be better pretty soon.
And
but
you don't have to do it.
Yeah. I actually don't have to do it. I'm just going to, it's okay to not feel okay sometimes.
Right.
That leads me to another thought, which is that if your kid is feeling really fixated about your negative emotions, it may be that they are reflecting back to you what you do to them. If you're someone who feels very unokay with your child feeling unhappy or frustrated or sad and is like overly fixing for them, or like doing everything you can possibly think of to chase away all their negative feelings, which of course is very natural. Like you want them to feel good and not bad. But like, you know, if anytime they're expressing negative feelings, you're like, let's fix it. As opposed to sometimes just letting those be there. Yeah, that was tough. Yeah. For sure. Let me know if you need anything about that. You know? Like if them having negative feelings creates a real energy in you, perhaps they're just doing that same thing back at you. Yeah. So maybe take a little bit of inventory about when they're unhappy. Are you like super trying to fix it for them? Could maybe we just be like a little more chill in our lives about unhappiness? Like that's something that could be coming up for them.
That's really good. And also just taking it as a great opportunity to show them what it looks like to have bad feelings, because eventually they're going to have bad feelings as a grown person, and eventually they might even have bad feelings as a parent. Yeah. And they'll be able to reflect back on, mom sometimes did, or dad sometimes did. And this is how it went. And I was still, you know, safe in this environment, but they still had the feelings, and it didn't mean the world was ending, and it didn't mean the whole house changed. And I don't know, just using that as a model opportunity. It also then gives you some vision for where you're going with your emotions, because sometimes when we're feeling crappy, the crappy emotions just take us over, and then we don't actually regulate very well. We just feel what we feel. And so if in there we've got like, cool, not their responsibility to fix me. Also, I can love their love. How sweet. And now how do I want to be a good example in feeling all the feelings? And sounds great.
Yeah. I wonder if there's some space too, even for, how's that for a sentence? I wonder if there's some space too, even for, just say what you want to say. Maybe you could be doing a little bit of vocalizing when you are unhappy about what you're doing to take care of yourself.
Ooh, teaching them.
Just a little bit of
I like that.
I had a teacher in like my child development courses. She used to talk about talking your walk. As they're really little and they're learning language, you're just putting words to what's happening in life around them is kind of a way to be building some language. If you do that too much, you'll just be talking for the rest of your life. But, I'm going to set you down now. Okay, you're laying on the thing over here while I go do this thing, like just instilling some of that. So if you are feeling you guys have had a conflict, there is some negative behavior from them that you guys dealt with, but now there's some lingering frustration and they're just like, mom's not happy.
Yeah.
You could be like, yeah, absolutely. Mom's not happy. Yeah. I'm going to take care of myself. You know what I think I'll do? I think I'm going to make a little bit of tea.
That's good.
Whatever, like casual
You're not
thing.
being like, yeah, your dad's a big jerk.
Or I fucking hate it when you pinch the baby. It makes me freak out. It takes a long time to calm down after you pinch the baby.
You call a friend for those ones. Or you get on Very Good Mothers Club and you talk about the real stuff. Yeah. But to your kid, you just talk about the cup of tea you're making.
That's a good point. I'm not feeling well. It's probably going to take me a little while to calm down from that. Yeah. I wonder if a little cup of tea would help me.
Yeah.
Done. But each of these, the tone of them that I want to be expressing is pretty casual.
Yeah.
It's pretty casual, pretty light touch here. I would not be joining your child in a super fixation around that. They're fixated on your negative feelings. And now you're going to be like, oh no, about their fixation about your feelings.
Don't make it weird.
Yeah. Don't make it weird is the theme of this podcast. Yeah. The theme of this season is like, no, let it be chill, you guys. Yeah. How could you let this be the easiest thing in the world? How could we both address this and just let it be the easiest thing?
Yeah. It's great.
Speaking of modeling, though, another place to be looking at, because there is a little bit of a question in one of these about, like, am I making a people pleaser?
Oh, right.
Is there another adult in your home whose negative feelings you jump to placate? Is there a child watching you?
That's a great one.
In your relationship with your adult partner, who you have certainly chosen based out of how you were raised, right? Like
totally. Oh, for some people listening, they're going to be like, this. Stop it, Lane.
Yeah. Yikes.
Yeah.
Is it maybe that when dad's upset, mom goes out of her way to either stay out of the circle of those, mom's hustling everyone out of the circle of negative dad feelings, or mom has noticed, child has clocked mom noticing, mom executes all the ways to get dad feeling better, or just gets small and follows him or whatever, whatever.
Yes.
But we're looking for either something that's bouncing back and forth between you and this kid, or something that this kid is
bouncing
seeing
around the house.
Yeah. Somewhere they're getting an idea of where there's negative feelings. We need to solve those. And even that, I think, is going to be like, we're just ratcheting this down to a nice light touch here. Yeah, seems like dad's pretty grumpy.
Maybe dad needs to make himself a snack.
I wonder. That could be nice. Well, it's okay to not feel okay sometimes.
It is.
And moving along
right
there.
Along.
Yeah. Keep it. I say keep it moving.
Yeah.
I'm not hearing anything in these questions that alarms me. Otherwise, you would have heard from me much, much sooner about this. And let's keep it moving. Let's keep it light. Let's keep an eye on it.
It's great.
And anytime we're worried about people pleasing, what we want to be focused on is not pushing down the expression of nurture or care or other person. We don't want to be rebuffing that because that's just rejection to the person who's trying so hard to please you, right? What we want to be doing is building up the weak spot, which is, are you thinking about yourself? Are you advocating for yourself? Do you need some words to help say what you need, little child? Yes or no? Like, I want to be rerouting your energy back into your own experience a little bit more and making sure that you have the tools that you need to ask for what you need, to say when you don't like it, to ask for help, to assess your own needs.
Yeah.
Are you inside your own experience? So even that is not so much getting them to stop asking about how you're feeling, but just doing like the little bit of like judo energy shift. Like, oh, I'm going to use that little energy and just put it back inside.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. How do you feel when mom feels frustrated? It's interesting, huh? It's just like, give it back, put it back on their side a little bit, but keeping it light, not turning this into a big old thing for them.
Yep.
Anytime there's a big reaction around emotions, things get a little too interesting. And either it becomes like, oh no, I need to avoid that emotional state now, or that was powerful, I'm going to use that whenever I need to create chaos.
Sure. Get
what
attention.
I need, stress them out, punish this adult.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
And then anytime there's a void, your kid's going to fill it in. When there's an information void, they're going to fill it in, and they just don't have great info yet.
Yeah.
They're not to be trusted.
Right.
With defining the world or understanding, because they don't have enough information yet.
Yeah.
So you want to be the one dictating the narrative around what's happening, because you can see what's happening ideally.
Great. That's great.
How does this feel?
Yeah. Perfect. I think we did it.
Answered. Feel clear.
Yeah. I think, guys, if we go on any longer, we're making it a thing. It's not a thing.
Light touch.
No, light touch. Yeah. I think this is great. But seriously, if you have more questions or more things you want to say about it, join us or email us. And I mean, you could DM. I'm sure there's going to be some sort of little clip on this one, and you can write us on Instagram, whatever. We'd love to hear from you. And good job, Lane. Okay.
Good job, Jess.
See you soon. Bye.
Very Good Enough is a production of Very Good Mothers Club. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a second to rate and review the podcast wherever you're listening. If you're watching on YouTube, hit subscribe and leave a little comment. And above all, text it to a friend.